Hey, thank you very much. My name is David Bellavia. I'm contractually obligated to tell you that I host a show in Buffalo from 3 to 7 every day. But soon I will be free of that obligation, so that you won't have to hear that anymore. But that's the legalese here. We do a radio show every day, and but I want to just kind of bring your attention right now, about a 40 millimeter launch distance from where we are. There is a man who served this country in the Army National Guard. He served in Guantanamo and he served in Iraq. And he came back to serve the Buffalo Police Department as a K-9 officer, and then recently joined the underwater recovery team. And right now he is missing. Yes. And I can tell you that because we're covering this story up to the minute, they think they know where he is, but they're going to wait till tomorrow to repatriate him. But now would be the appropriate time, I think, to just kind of take a moment and not only acknowledge Craig Lair, but just thank God that we still have Americans that are willing to serve and fulfill their commitment to our liberty.
Yes.
If you'd like to, go ahead. I'm all about it. Would you like to lead us in a prayer?
I'll do it.
Go ahead.
This is David. Tell him this man's
What's this guy's name again?
His name's Craig Lair.
Father God, just asking you to bless his heart, and that we hear him with open minds and hearts, Father God. And we also lift up David Lair to you, Father, and just ask that as they go for him tomorrow, that everything will go well and safely, Father God, and he'll be all right and in your hands. We just lift the rest of this conference up to your throne of grace as we all prepare to travel home, and we just thank you for the blessed weekend that we have had. In your Son, Jesus' mighty and precious name, amen.
Amen. One of the things I like to do every time I get in a room full of veterans is I like to, this is very controversial, all right? I'm going to tell you this right now, because there is one of the things I want to kind of talk to you a little bit about is just the idea that we have allowed popular culture to kind of change the history of the United States, right? And it's gotten to the point where we take one series of books or one movie and we put things on a plateau, and we forget sometimes what it was like to live in that time. And when I hear people talk about the greatest generation, I made it a solemn promise when I came home from Iraq and I was going through the Atlanta airport and I'm walking through in our uniforms. Someone thought that was a great idea. And we all wore our uniforms and walked to the airport, and someone grabbed my neck from behind, which combat vets coming home don't grab a combat veteran from behind in a neck, and I felt liquid on my neck. And so I was like, I am about to knock someone out. I was livid. I'm like, what is happening here? I turned around, and it was a Vietnam veteran, and he was crying. And he literally held my face in his hands, and he told me 3 things that have absolutely changed my life. It's the 3 things that I tell every Vietnam veteran, and it's the 3 things he told me, and it's the reason why I believe that you are the greatest American treasure we have. Because when your generation was treated with disrespect, when your generation was put in front of the foreign policy, the soldier represented the foreign policy of the United States in Vietnam. The soldier wasn't just doing what they were told. The soldier, the Marine, was the policy. So when they came home, they were the embodiment of an unpopular war, and society treated them that way. All of that disrespect, all of that dishonor, and there they are, standing up, making sure that my generation never got that. That is the literal definition of love. And so I will tell you, Vietnam veterans, if you're able to stand up and acknowledge yourself here. If you served in Vietnam.
Oh.
They told me, they said, welcome home, thank you for your service, I love you. And that's what you were owed.
Yes,
and
amen.
that's what you will be told
Amen.
every chance I get for coming home to a country that will never, ever treat their sons and daughters with disrespect again. And that's because of what you endured. So thank you. And no offense to World War II, but everyone was in on the fight, okay?
Yeah.
No offense to Steven Spielberg, but, you know, when there were no protests outside of D-Day. The bombs on Hiroshima worked 50-50. We didn't have to go to Quinnipiac to find out what people wanted to do with Japan. It was a little different world. So thank you guys for what you did. The thing I want to talk to you about is just a little bit about my background, what happened to us, how we came home, the importance of what you're doing, but also I think we need to be honest with each other, like straight up honest. And it might be uncomfortable. Honesty often is, right? It might sound, it will not sound patronizing, because I am not patronizing. That's the best way to not sound that way, is to not do it, right? But I think we have a fundamental disconnect. I think we can all agree that in our world we have forces for good.
Yep.
Now, we might not agree on the origin. Some people may not want to admit their walk with a higher spirit. For me, as a Christian, I'm unapologetic about it. Another man who is unapologetic about his religion is a guy by the name of Gary Biker. Now, Gary is literally a hero beyond. Before he was Gary from Western New York, who received the Medal of Honor for service in Vietnam, he was Gary, the American hero that was at Fort Benning, Georgia, that as a young guy with a shaved head, with ears that are asymmetrical to his head, I looked like Charlie Brown with a shaved head, okay? It was not a pretty thing. The Sergeant Major looked at me and said, you know what? Let him grow it out. Let's just see how it goes. We don't know if it's going to break rules, but yeah, I think he needs it. I actually tell this story. It's actually true. When I joined, it was before 9/11, of course. And I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I mean, this was summer camp with bad haircuts. As far as I was concerned, there was no war on the horizon. Kosovo was the big battle. I didn't go to Kosovo. I deployed to Kosovo, and I'm like, where's the war? There's no war here. I'm just watching people holding hands and cows and pigs. Pigs are the non-Muslims. The cows are the... I mean, there was nothing going on. There was no war, right? I was an infantryman. I was trained to go to war, and when the towers fell, I wanted to go to war. But before that warrior was born, I was a pretty naive kid from Western New York. And I took a hairdryer to basic training. I thought it was going to grow back. And then I needed to not only be prepared for my hair to grow back in such a rush that I could blow dry it. And they emptied out the bags, and the drill sergeant's like, whose hairdryer is that? And I'm like, I don't know, but you should smoke him. Whoever brought a hairdryer, what an absolute maroon. That is a fool, and you should ruin his life. But Gary was a hero in basic training to me. And then I found out he's from Greece, New York. Then I thought about like visiting him at his house, and then I thought about probably it's a really bad idea with a guy like Gary not to surprise him. But I got to meet him, and what an incredible testimony, what an incredible human being. One of the most humblest, the humility that pours out of him. You know, we talk about what the definition of a Christian is, and he's in the fight of his life right now. But I'll tell you what, cancer had no idea what they were getting when they went up against Gary, and he is given the fight of his life, and we pray for him as much as you can, because he needs it. He's a tough, tough guy. He's a Medal of Honor recipient for doing some amazing things. And I don't want to give you I'll give you the PG-13, all right? The bad guys lost that day, all right? Gary won. Gulf War was the high point in American pride. Gulf War I was sponsored by Pepsi, okay? Think about that. The entire war was based on every American citizen You supported those troops, and it was for one reason and one reason only. There was a cultural guilt for what we did
Yep.
to the Vietnam generation.